now let's go straight to the to August of 1999, where of course the Newcastle AFL had the finals onto its good spirits, and also even though I'm a bit scary, but it's all because it's Halloween this weekend. But thankfully, and of course, the Newcastle Knights managed to quickly score a try during a match against the Dragons in one of the best games. South Cardiff were right on their home turf, and of course they were right up against Cessnock during the most recent round of the NBN Soccer League. And of course, whatever goals they had to kick, it certainly worked. And of course, the Gunners knew what to do after that. And of course, South Cardiff had to quickly know what to do. Score the goals. Meantime, in the other games, Highfields defeated Azuri 2-0, while Edgeworth upsetted East Maitland 6-0. Also, Hamilton defeated Adamstown Rosebuds. Also, in the match you've just seen, South Cardiff defeated the Cessnock Hornets 4-0, while Broadmeadow Magic defeated Western Workers 2-0, and Wallsend were forced to share the points with Belmont Swansea 1-0. 1-all. Conklin McLeod, NBN News. Danny Badiris knows a lot about rugby league, and of course he was part of the Knights' biggest ever win against South Sydney over the weekend, 66-0. Then Newcastle travelled to the other side. Meantime, Newcastle's named their squad as part of the upcoming match with St George Illawarra. That includes O'Davis, Albert, Gidley, Hughes, Moody, the Johns brothers, Matthew and Andrew, and of course, there'll be Butterfield, Badiris, O'Brien, Lomax, Rudder, and Peden. And of course, it'll be exciting for the Knights. And of course, if the Knights beat the Dragons, it'll be a huge one as well. It follows Newcastle's win over South Sydney right up at Malafon Stadium. Coach Warren Ryan is hoping that the Knights can get revenge onto St George Illawarra this Friday. Conklin McLeod, NBN News. It's been frustrating for the Newcastle basketball scene, as they not had a team in the NBL since the collapse of its well-known team, the Falcons. But however, plenty of local basketball teams right across Newcastle and the Hunters since become huge. Meantime, in Newcastle AFL, it was huge for two of its clubs, but only one can secure the match winner. Conklin McLeod, NBN News. it became a match that, of course, was huge. Of course, whenever two clubs, of course, become rivals, it's also becoming the huge one. But of course, South Cardiff had to have a victory. Of course, they certainly did. And that's what occurred today, right up in the NBN Soccer League. Meanwhile, in other results, Edgeworth defeated Wallsend, while Broadmeadow upset Belmont. South Cardiff managed to beat Western Workers. Also, Hamilton defeated Cessnock, and also Adamstown and Highfields drew 2-2, and Toronto defeated East. Conklin McLeod, NBN News. Good news for the Knights. There was a lot of golf training to be done, and it's also something that also happens right off the field. That's what Robbie O'Davis started doing as part of his training skills this morning. But thankfully, the Knights didn't have to give up as part of that incredible, huge victory over South Sydney, who were, of course, struggling. But thankfully, Adam McDougall was watching back at home despite suffering a nasty injury to his hand, for which Coach Ron Ryan is not worried about. And of course, Andrew Johns also delighted following his performance. The huge victory making Newcastle favourites to win the premiership. While it's razzle dazzle, it's also becoming try to try. Conklin McLeod, NBN News. The Knights' win over St George Illawarra was huge. Also, it became known for Darren Albert scoring one of the best tries in the final few minutes, which of course referred to his match-winning try back in the 1997 Grand Final. But it took a massive toll on Andrew Johns, leaving the field due to an injury onto his head. Despite that, Newcastle fought back, scoring plenty more tries, which had to be spectacular. And of course, training is what they had to do as part of their next game, which will officially be on in a few days. Meanwhile, Tony Butterfield scored one of the best tries of all. Before letting the rest of his teammates do the job. Conklin McLeod, NBN News. Matthew Johns was back up at training today, and also he was back on the Knights bus. And so too were his teammates. And also, Coach Ron Ryan also got onto the bus. Also, the Knights had a spectacular week. It was the last one, and thankfully they managed to score the match-winning try right up at full time, all thanks to one of the best, Darren Albert. The Knights drove in their Sid Fogg's bus. Also, the players will quickly were quickly given a meet and greet by their fans. Right up at the show, Conklin McLeod, NBN News. The Mackay Scorpions and Western Suburbs had a huge game over the weekend. First, they ended up scoring tries before one of West's players was fined for this headbutt. Then West ended up scoring after that. Conklin McLeod, NBN News. After their well-known performance against St George Illawarra, it was just massive for the Newcastle Knights, scoring lots and lots of tries before Darren Albert scored the last one in the final few minutes, which of course wrapped it up at full time. But thankfully, Warren Ryan was all but impressed by his boys. And of course, plenty of rugby league players know exactly what it's like. And of course, with Andrew Johns quickly getting onto the front of the Rugby League magazine, where he is named the new king. Conklin McLeod, NBN News. Finally, after consolating a couple of days, Western Suburbs announced their new coach for the upcoming season of the Newcastle Rugby League competition.
It means a lot to everyone to win a grand final, and especially to win 3 on the road would be something very special.
The club's gone very well, of course. Even though they failed to win a grand final before, however, they're hoping that this year is their year. Getting on the good books, of course, is the other teams. And of course, this weekend will officially become the best with the matches of the round played. Conklin McLeod, NBN News.
Both Lakes and Wests had a massive go at themselves today in a game of Newcastle Rugby League. Then moments later, a push and shove saw both clubs lose players to the Benfica growling. After that, Western Suburbs scored. Then Lakes did the same before it hit it up again. The score changed before West secured the match winner at full time.
Newcastle had to secure a victory by scoring dozens of tries. Despite it being an aggressive one, Newcastle managed to win the game. With more running and scoring coming, it was huge. Despite it, Newcastle managed to score more and win a match undefeated.
The Wildfires were getting ready to pipe the upcoming clash. Because of that, they didn't have to wait for too long.
And Pat Turner, Dish. Yeah, well, that's what Dish was. Yeah, well, he's on Fletch.
Also, one of their players had to be interviewed today. And of course, the Wildfires are hoping that a win will get them through to the finals of the Shoot Shield. Meantime, in the Newcastle Rugby Union, Wilder Wanderers are up against Maitland, Mayweather hosts Hamilton, and University are up against Eastern Districts. Also in the NBN Soccer League this Saturday, and of course there's round 21 of East Maitland hosting Adamstown, while on Sunday Highfields are up against Cessnock, and Edgeworth are up against Toronto, Western are up against Hamilton, while Belmont Swansea host the South Cardiff Gunners, and Broadmeadow is up against Wallsend. And also, it's going to be a massive round right up ahead. Glenn McLeod, NBN News. There's still more days left on the clock till the Knights have a match right on their hands. That, of course, is right up against their rivals.
Worry about that when that comes, but I'll have to bring him in once he's had a good run under his belt there.
After outclassing South Sydney for a high-scoring 60-0 victory, and of course, the NRL is really worried about the dramatised size of the club. Meantime, the Knights have named down changed line-up ahead of the clash, such as O'Davis, Albert, Gidley, Hughes, Moody, the Johns brothers, Matthew and Andrew, as well as Butterfield, Badiwis, O'Brien, Lomax, Rudder and Peden, while Craigie has been dropped to reserve grade. Also, the Knights have a home game right at McDonald Jones. Also, the Knights have a home game at Marathon Stadium this weekend. Conklin McLeod, NBN News. Now, it's time for the word from the chief. Of course, the chief is up at Marathon Stadium as part of a Knights game tonight. Now the chief knows exactly the lot about the use of players, but however, he's played for New South Wales as well as representing for New South Wales country. But however, he's tipped the teams to win.
With Ben Walker jarring a finger.
But it's not just that, it's also become a bit dramatic for many. Meanwhile, the chief has done some incredible tipping as part of his tipping. He's chosen the Broncos, the Knights, the Bulldogs, Sea Eagles, Storm, Panthers, Roosters, and Western Suburbs to all secure victories in all of their games. South Newcastle were up against their rivals, and of course it was right up in the Newcastle Rugby League competition today.
This man's got in the water. He's only 19 years of age. Swimming quite a few events here.
Hailing from Stockton, Justin Norris knows what to do right up in the pool. Swimming as well as winning.
He looks like he's going to go around the same time or even better. It's been a very good swim. Down he goes, McGregor. Tarkin.
But however, things were much different. Right up in another type of sport. It was a bit of chair bashing, that is. Which you don't usually watch, that is. Also, the Newcastle Wildfires had a good start, scoring plenty of tries to get through to the finals of the Shute Shield. Also, Rugby Union continues this weekend in the Newcastle competition, with the Wanderers hosting East Districts. Hamilton is up against Singleton. Maitland is up against University of Newcastle, while the Waratahs are up against Mayweather Carlton. Also, in the NBN Soccer League, it's finals time, which sees Adamstown up against Highfields this Saturday, while on Sunday it's a qualifying semi-final with Hamilton up against Broadmeadow. And of course, whoever wins will go through to the grand final. Conklin McLeod, NBN News. Scone and their rivals Aberdeen had to quickly go through to the grand final. It was right in the Group 21 Rugby League decider. It was up in the grand final. A whole lot of things got much worse for the visitors. A few players got sent to the bin for back-chatting. But thankfully, it was Scones Day. Scones scored plenty more tries, the Thoroughbreds winning the Group 21 Premiership. And of course, as Scone managed to score, they also won back-to-back. Celebrating in spectacular style after that, it was huge. Congley McLeod, NBN News. With it all getting very close, up to the with the final teams of the Newcastle Rugby League getting much closer and going through to the finals, it's all becoming huge. First for Northern Lakes scored. Then Western Suburbs scored. Then everyone thought West had secured a comeback. Then everyone thought Northern secured a comeback. And of course, Western Suburbs had won before the Northern Hawks had a miraculous comeback. But Western Suburbs were not done yet. The finals dreams still alive. Congley McLeod, NBN News. Up against the Warriors, Newcastle knew exactly what happened. And of course, the Knights squad to face their next team are, of course, O'Davis, Albert, Gidley, Hughes, Moody, the Johns brothers, Matthew and Andrew, as well as their other players, such as Butterfield, Badiris, O'Brien, Shields, Rudder, and Peden, while Simpson has been dropped to reserve grade. But today, the Knights had a massive amount of training this morning, hoping they can win their final few games, go through to the finals.
To the crowd, what about the step? Well, the Warriors just far too good.
But after that loss to the Warriors, not good. Conklin McLeod, NBN News. Back on the other side, it was of course the finals of the NBN Soccer League. Despite a lot of penalties, but then a lot of push and shoves became involved. Finally, goals. Before the good ones eventually came along. Question is, who will join the lead team in the big one? Congley McLeod at NBN News. Drama occurred last week after the Knights suffered their heaviest loss, but this time to the Warriors. But thankfully, Newcastle are not out of finals contentions.
Him to the sideline in real trouble.
Despite suffering an injury, Matthew Johns has been cleared.
Now 40-20, is it?
Then the other players had to quickly start their training skills. The loss, not good. Congolese McLeod, NBN News.
Number 12, swinging out his opponent. Owen Craigie, who was outstanding. Big tackle from Rudder. And this crowd is going to call for another try.
Well, yeah, a little bit touch and go there. I think I'd go was a...
It was massive. For Wes, it was like winning a grand final of the Newcastle Rugby League. Even though the Northern Blues tried to fight back, too late. But thankfully, the Northern Blues had to quickly score more tries after that. It is all courtesy of Leo Denver, Congolese McLeod, NBN News. He was still on the best as the finals of the NBN Soccer League were just in about a week's time. The final teams waiting to quickly deciding their positions, as they ended up winning games. Huge for plenty of them, but the ones who lost, not so. Congolese McLeod, NBN News. It was a fair bit of a game that occurred right up in the finals of the NBN Soccer League. But then suddenly, moments later, all the bad things broke loose. The two players were involved in a heated push and shove. Left agitated by the decision, thankfully, one of the players had to be sent off for this tackle as well as professional foul. But the winning team, of course, led the celebrations and are now through to the big one. Congolese McLeod, NBN News. Good news for the Knights. They have all but named a squad as part of their clash with their rivals. Thankfully, the Knights players will be A-OK. Also, while Ryan is not worried about it. Neither is Andrew Johns. The Knights squad that's still unchanged from last week's loss is, of course, O'Davis, Albert, Gidley, Hughes, Moody, the Johns brothers Matthew and Andrew, as well as Butterfield, Badiris, O'Brien, Shields, Rudder and Peter, while Steve Simpson is still on reserve grades. Newcastle's hoping to beat Sydney City tonight. Conklin McLeod, NBN News.
Still on the park. Matthew.
Both Wyong and Woi Woi were battling out against each other in the Central Coast Rugby League Grand Final. Woi was a high tackle.
But great field position. Shane Ward now just gives it out to Winsberry, and that was an excellent tackle right around the boot.
Eventually, Woi Woi won the game. Conklin McLeod, NBN News. Still onto the good amount, of course, the NBN Soccer League was still onto the good amount of finals glory. Meanwhile, one of the players was, not only one player was sent off, but two, after they were seen a yellow card. Then later, goals had to be quickly decided in the match. Straight again. Excited fans just couldn't wait. Good dream later becoming huge. Also, it will be huge next week. Conklin McLeod, NBN News. It was just massive for Woi Woi in the Central Coast Rugby League Grand Final. They took on their rivals Wyong. And of course, Wyong had to quickly. And of course, Woi Woi kicked the points as they led 28-26. That's how it stayed up at full time. And it certainly was.
Peter Lannan that made that tackle on Mariska. Now they're going back to the 10. Mariska's in kicking distance.
How could he? There wasn't a result of a kick. If this is a penalty here.
Conklin McLeod, NBN News. While basketball is still a massive sport, there's now a new team. And of course, it's the Newcastle. And of course, it's the Newcastle Hunters. The club's been around since the demise of the Newcastle Falcons, which occurred months ago. Also, it's going to become huge when more players come above from overseas. Meanwhile, in the preliminary final of the NBN Soccer League, Edgeworth is up against Adamstown for the right to officially play Hamilton in the grand final. Conklin McLeod, NBN News. It was right back in the Robson Shield grand final, and of course, that's why Mayweather had to quickly secure the points and the victory. Both Mayweather defeating their rivals, and of course became enough secure a marvellous victory. While the tries are scored, meantime in the CHS Open final of the Robson Shield competition, Mayweather defeated Endeavour with a 20-17 victory. Also, the Newcastle Rugby Union finals will be played this weekend. Conklin McLeod, NBN News. It was a match of Newcastle Rugby League. It was a match of Newcastle Rugby Union played. Good news came above, as both the Waratahs and Mayweather Carlton took on against each other, which is good. While it was exciting, the Waratahs continued on their try-scoring fest. Mayweather tried everything they could to fight back. Conklin McLeod, NBN News.
Newcastle had to win by scoring a lot. Despite scoring the best, Newcastle scored more and more. Also because of it, victory was on the good side. Also, Newcastle never looked back, scoring more to become winners. Scoring Newcastle.
It was one of the best weekends of the Newcastle AFL, where the Cardiff Hawks took on Newcastle City. And of course, despite that, it was just massive. Meanwhile, in a different game, it was huge. It was, of course, Rugby Union, where the Waratahs were up against their rivals. Conklin McLeod, NBN News.
Strongly than the other referee one too.
Warren Ryan knows exactly a lot about his career with rugby league.
Anyway, but when you throw that little... I'm not saying that South Sydney were woeful. They were saying, how good were the Knights?
And of course, the Knights have been so good since.
Unloading for Butterfield. Butterfield away for Craigie. Craigie is in space. Fullback to beat. He does the same.
It was all since that victory over the Dragons. Conklin McLeod, NBN News. If the Newcastle Wildfires know exactly what to do, that of course is score tries. That's what they had to do just about a week ago. The rise of dominance has since become huge. With tries still coming, it was just huge. Thankfully, nobody's stopping the home side. But it was all Newcastle, who quickly had a victory, as well as a win. Congley McLeod at NBN News.
For jockeys in a season, he's hit the
While it's brilliant for Newcastle's players, such as horsing, and of course Alan Robinson is one of them.
Thank you, sir. And Bill. And all the other trophies and that I've got throughout the year, I haven't got a skerrick on what this means to me. Thanks very much. He goes to the races now, but the other day when I was getting a...
It's always very, very competitive. Okay.
Also Cameron's HCP has chosen Basel Bay, Adam, Rafael, Fakui, Mr. Innocent, Eyes to Spy, and Techniques. While the ones who have been named in the Newcastle Gold Cup include Behind, Plays Indeed, Catapult, Enjoyment, Full Noise, Maltese Beauty, and Mr. Prudent. Also, it will take place at the Newcastle Jockey Club. Meantime, it will be huge, with both local rugby league and rugby union onto the good books, as rugby union gets onto the good place. Conklin McLeod, NBN News. After the break, we'll have a look at the sporting moments from September 1999.
I'm going to buy that.
Into big business now, are we?
Nope, I'm quite happy with the small business I own, Louise.
Who are you banking with now, Bob?
Newcastle Permanent.
No, I mean your company banking.
Yeah, we're with the firm.
Didn't know they did business banking.
Well, I have done for quite some time now, Dad.
Oh, good move.
That's mine. Thank you.
Your business is in good hands with Newcastle Permanent.
They're our building society.
'cause the Herald is the best way to start your day.